Fantasy Football Show.
Hello everybody, welcome to the People's Poll, the show each and every Monday from Planet FPL where we discuss a topic of your choosing. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
It's Monday, no football this weekend as everybody's well aware, so we're still carrying on, the content's still going, there's plenty still to talk about. But what were the options in the poll this week? Let me guess, they were all virus related.
They were, and they won't always be going forward. But there were 4 potential knock-on options based on what's currently going on in the world that I thought would be of interest to talk about. The one that had the lowest votes was, for me, the one that you all missed a trick because it was the one that should have won this vote. And that was the knock-on effect of sponsorship and television on football, depending on how long we potentially go without football. I think the implications are incredibly far-reaching. I think the idea of what's happening with sponsorship is not getting spoken about enough. There are numerous knock-on effects in terms of competition sponsors, shirt sponsors. For example, is someone who sponsors a Premier League team to endorse their sponsorship on their shirts? Do they pay for 38 games? Do they just pay for Premier League rights? We don't know the final details of contracts, right?
Yep.
But there are a number of football clubs who are potentially looking at having to reimburse sponsors. Now, in the Premier League, it might not be a massive issue, but then suddenly take away the TV money. Do the TV companies need money back? And obviously in lower league levels, it's frightening for many. Lower league football was also an option. I think that's something me and Suj are definitely going to revisit over these weeks with no football, because there's a number of football clubs who are in serious danger depending on how long this is going, the same way of Bury. Mm-hmm. I think it's not a joke. I think if we were to be in a position where, say, there was no football till 2021, which might feel far-fetched at the moment, but I don't think is impossible, then there are a number of clubs that are going to go. I can tell you that now, and that's scary.
Yep.
The transfer window, a lot of people have been asking about the potential impacts of what may happen with a transfer window depending on a restart. So, for example, if we restart the Premier League season in June, is the transfer window open? Is it shut? Do they move it? What happens to people like, say, we'll speak to Neil about this on Thursday's Clash of the Correspondents, or Bournemouth correspondent. What happens to the likes of Ryan Fraser, for example, who would be out of contract on June the 30th? There are many knock-on effects, right? Which is going to depend when the season restarts. The winner and clear winner of the vote, which was, I guess, what me and Suj expected from this, was the potential knock-on impacts to the general football calendar. Where do we stand? Where are we heading?
You put another tweet out earlier in the weekend. Would people rather have the season null and void and restart on time, or finish the current season?
Yeah.
What was the winner of that?
So there was nearly 2,000 votes, 62%. I basically did it with the caveat of forget about what the implications are. Just tell me, if we restart in August, would you rather finish the current season or start a new one? Which obviously would be scheduled to start in August. 62% said they would rather finish the current season. How do you feel about that?
I listened to a debate on the radio yesterday, and there were people making the case for void the season as it is now, and we start again the new season in August from same teams in the same leagues, etc. And it's as if the 1920 season never happened. And there was people making the case for finish the current season, and have a lot of moving around of the European Championships, maybe scrap one of the domestic competitions, maybe scrap one of the European competitions, whatever it may be. So there were arguments for both. Now, as it stands right now, I would rather finish the current season, because I think there's still an opportunity to finish the current season and start the next season in a relatively timely fashion. The longer it goes on, the more I'm leaning to, the more longer this this break goes on, the more I will lean towards just scrap it and start the next season.
says the West Ham fan.
But it also opens up a lot of difficulties and issues. So what you can't do is settle the season as it is right now. The team that are top get the title, and the team that are in the top two in the Championship go up, and the bottom three go down, and whatever. You can't do that. You can't settle the season as we stand where we are right now. And yes, Liverpool will win the league. Yes, Norwich are highly likely to go down, and maybe Villa as well. You don't really know with Bournemouth. But you can't settle the season now. Halfway through, you can't settle the season. So I think the option is right now, wait and see when we can refix in the next games. But the later it goes on, the harder it becomes to squeeze everything in. So
I think that's true and not true. I think an August restart is the most awkward to restart the season, for example. If we could restart...
only if you want to try and finish the current season.
My opinion is that no matter what, the current season should be finished. Irrespective of when, whether it's May, August, October, I don't really care. I think the current season needs finishing.
Why?
Because you can't worry about the next season until the current season's finished. There's too much at stake. Right now, we're in a position where no matter what you do, someone's going to be unhappy.
Correct.
So take the example, one of the ideas that's been knocked about from the Bundesliga's suggestion, and I don't know if it's true or not, and then knock-on effect to the Premier League, is the idea that we get promotions and no relegations. So, for example, Leeds and West Brom would come into the Premier League to make a 22-team Premier League. No one would get relegated from the Championship. Then the top two from League One would go up, and so on.
Again, you're going to have anybody in the playoff positions. Your Fulhams and Bristol Cities and Brentfords are going to be. That's not fair because they've still got however many games.
They started the season with 3 teams going up. Those were the rules of the competition. 3 teams would go up, not 2. You can't then say the third should then go up as the playoff winners.
But what's to say that they wouldn't have caught Leeds or West Brom?
Well, exactly. So, it's a championship as well, right?
So,
it's not.
So why drawing a line and saying where we are right now, these two go up and no one else does? You can't work. So you're saying finish the season and then.
I think finish the season no matter when. Yeah,
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with voiding the season. I think if you get to a point in the season where it's clear that this is like. Because it's act of God and unforeseen circumstances, and you'll find even like you talked about sponsorship contracts, most things that people would lean on as act of God stuff. This is out of our hands. Therefore, it's like I don't know what another example. Say a world war started, like World War III started in the middle of a football season. We go to war with another country. Everything's on lockdown because planes are flying over, bombing people, whatever. You'd kill the season, right? There and then, done. We wouldn't carry on, and we wouldn't go back and try and finish the current season. We'd just start the next season whenever we would. I think because of if the time allows to finish the current season, that would obviously be my preference. But the closer we get to it, the more I think, you know what, it's going to be hard to squeeze it in. Now, remember, the Qatar World Cup is a Winter World Cup. So that's changes that allows us to play with the schedule of the season a little bit. The second thing to think about that was mentioned on the radio as well is if the Euros gets kicked from this summer to next summer, I think I heard the Italian Football Association have already petitioned UEFA now and said, get rid of this and move it to next year. We don't need any international breaks. Hallelujah. Right? Imagine a season with no, because we don't have any qualifying games necessarily. So all of that September, October nonsense where we lost, 4 international breaks?
That's
5 international breaks?
Correct.
Why?
Because you get the next set of the Nations League.
No, scrap the Nations League.
Yeah,
forget about it.
Yeah,
the Nation League is unnecessary.
I realise that. Then you've got World Cup qualifiers for 2022.
That would be the year after, right?
And obviously, the playoff places for the Euros still needs determining.
That's only one game left.
There's 4 teams. Yeah. So if you break it, that's 12 games in total. The qualifying for the Euros can get played. I don't mind that, but we don't need all of the international breaks. I'm sure we don't need. We're probably going to get
what international breaks?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Federations are going to demand it. Maybe not ours. Well, actually, ours would from a money perspective.
But then you can't finish. Would you rather have your international games or finish your domestic league?
No, I get that. But football associations are going to need income. Mm-hmm. The quickest way to get them is from international football.
I think if the start of next season is is delayed, then what would you do? Would you then try and squeeze in more games next season? Would you scrap some competitions? Would you scrap the League Cup? Would you try and get rid of the European competitions next season?
I think
because we already, before this coronavirus kicked in, we already were starting to have a little bit of fixture pile up already.
Yeah.
So it's only going to exacerbate it even more, which is why I'm leaning more towards, avoiding this season is not ideal, but it's fair. It's just a line for everyone at this point where you don't have to worry about the relegation and promotion issues necessarily. You don't have to worry about trying to finish anything off. It's as if this season never happened and we can carry on as normal. Now, how...
So what if we don't restart to October?
The later it gets, the worse it is. Like, say we got to December, then maybe you're better off just finishing this season next year and scrapping next season.
That's what I think we're better off doing. I think it depends in terms of when we restart, what are we cutting so much from next season? In theory, and I feel it's unlikely at the moment, but were the Premier League able to restart and Serie A, etc., all be able to restart in June and finish in July, there's no reason then the next football season can't start on time. I think we can say now with almost near certainty that the European Championships will be postponed this summer. There's no way that can happen.
Correct.
And that's either going to get moved for me into one of three places. One is very late in this year. There has been some rumours of November, December to align it, like you said, with the Qatar World Cup. Is also the idea of moving it to next summer, which then potentially has a knock-on on other tournaments. For example, the Women's European Championship is due to be in England next summer, so presumably that then goes into 2022 and so on and so on. And I think the third option is that it doesn't take place till after Qatar 2022. And I think that idea would be on the basis, potentially, that we worked towards, essentially football currently is a winter sport, with the international tournaments taking place in summers, that we evolve towards a summer competition, which would be, I don't know, something like January to October until after Qatar 2022. And I think there's a possibility even Euro 2020 could be after that. I don't know, February 2023 or something. I think that's far-fetched and unlikely. But there's a number of options for that. My sympathy with the Premier League, to refer to it domestically and then the EFL, etc., is these guys are going to have to wait for UEFA. The Premier League can't say, this is what we're going to do, if UEFA then say, yeah, do you know what, the Euros are in December. Like, that's chaos. The easiest thing is just to put the Euros next summer. But then if football doesn't restart till January, and then the idea was to work through summer football, then the Euros is going to get in the way of all of that, for example. So UEFA are meeting on Tuesday. There's 4 separate conference calls being discussed. One is with international associations. One is with a set of clubs. I mean, it's 50 or so football clubs, so they can have their say and representation of their leagues. There's another one, and then there's the final one of the board members will decide what's happening with the Euros, European UEFA Champions League, UEFA Europa League, etc.
They're doing that all on Tuesday.
That's the idea. I wouldn't be surprised if we come out Tuesday and don't get a decision, which is exactly why the Premier League have organised their meeting for Thursday. When the Premier League announced on Friday that the Premier League was suspended to April the 3rd, they know the football's not restarting on April the 3rd. All they've done is bought themselves some time, say, okay, let's 2 weeks of football's postponed. Mm-hmm. They can't do anything. Unfortunately, this is where domestic football is at now. It's so influenced by the global governing bodies such as UEFA, European, FIFA, World, in terms of working around their calendars. So in your ideal world of saying, oh, we won't have international football, that's great, but FIFA and domestic football associations will want international football. It's a source of income to them.
There's no income right now.
So we will be governed by that in some sort of way. Now, my idea would be, for me, the hypothetical scenario I put out that we restart in August, for me, that would mean then that we finish the football season August to September. And then October to May, if we assume the Euros go into next summer, something has to get cut. Whether it be, for example, the European competitions become one knockout, so there's no group stage, for example, perhaps one leg ties, 32 teams, 5 games to find a winner, in theory.
Yep.
Can be done. You're cutting 12 dates off of the schedule, then it's huge. League Cup goes.
Yeah. I think the thing with the League Cup is, like, for clubs like you and me, only saves a couple of games a season, mate.
Yeah. Save Man City a few, though, won't it?
Nah, true. But for a lot of clubs, it's not going to save that many games.
I would cut
it.
Worst case...
Or, you know what, better still with the League Cup, just cut the Premier League teams out of it or whatever. Because the lower league teams gives them a chance to win a trophy. I think leave it for League 1, League 2 or whatever.
FA Cup goes as well. Now, if you think about it, there's 38 games in a football season. Let's say that to squeeze it into a minimal amount of time, and there's no postponements, which there probably would be, no cup competitions, etc., etc. No one played more than twice a week. In theory, you could complete a domestic league season in 19 weeks. You agree with that? Mm-hmm. Cut it in half, 2 games a week.
Yeah.
It's 5 months if there's no clashes. Now there will be, and there will be postponed games. So let's give ourselves an extra 4 or 5 weeks grace.
Another month.
24 weeks. So what we're saying, 6 months?
Yeah.
So a domestic league campaign, I think, quite comfortably, with nothing else on top, just to leave some free midweeks. If there's no Europe, no domestic, can be completed in 6 months quite easily.
How would you feel about the Euros and the league season overlapping?
I think that gives integrity problems, from the stance that if you take any number of the sort of clubs fighting for the title, for example, or Champions League, etc., they're going to lose nearly their whole squads.
Yeah, I mean, look at Liverpool. Salah and Mane, Egyptian and Senegal. They'll still be killing everyone.
Firmino would be Brazilian. Fabinho, Alisson, Brazilian.
Suddenly, they've got a full team.
Right, so that's what I'm talking about with integrity, where you have certain problems for others. I'm not cool with that. I know you used the reference before about rugby. I think it's different as well. What you got to remember as well is the monstrous amount of money that our players are paid by their clubs, not by their national associations.
Yeah.
Whereas rugby's a little bit different like that.
Yeah, there's centralised contracts and all that kind of stuff going on. Same with cricket, because there's always international cricket at the same time as there's domestic county cricket going on. But I just feel if it was 1 or 2 games, it wouldn't bother me if we got towards the end of the season.
But then it's not, say, the example I'm obviously familiar with his son going around the world to play for Korea and save himself from national service and all that. You accept one player. Yeah, if Salah goes to the Olympics, which, I mean, that's not going to happen, is it?
Well, they say it is. Japan are pretty bullish at the moment that it's still going to happen.
Do you know what? If anybody can probably make it happen, it's probably them, in fairness.
Yeah.
But let's say Salah went and played in that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's one player. All right, it's not ideal, but I think when you're losing 12, 13, 14 players, I think in the last World Cup, and it wouldn't be the case this time, right? Spurs had 14, 15 players.
Yeah.
Like, there's no team left, man. Come on.
It would be tricky. I mean, there's no simple solution to this. I suppose we're having a very, very, very hypothetical debate here. The longer time goes on, the more I am thinking, do you know what? There's gonna be a point of no return to come back and finish this season if you want to start the next season, or there's gonna have to be some real compromises in next season.
I think my case is, like I said, what if we don't start to October? What are you doing with the next season then?
If we got to like this October, November, December, then there's serious consideration that the next season can't be completed. Isn't
it better? I don't know. I don't think it would be right. But let's say next year's league season was over 19 games. I don't think there's a fair way, particularly, of balancing that.
Nah.
But if that's the set of the rules at the start, at least everybody knows what the set of the rules are at the start.
Yeah, I don't think you could call it the Premier League at that point. Call it one season.
No, you probably couldn't. You might even have to be. It might even be that next season, if it got so late, that you'd actually say, right, there's no league season. You might even say there's cups. You might even, for lower league teams, you might even want to say, right, we'll have localized cup competitions. So clubs, say, I don't know, like a Northwest Cup or something for the lower league clubs. So at least they've got gate receipts coming in, something like that. There's loads of different ways that we can go. I just personally feel we have to finish this football season. I feel like it's ethically and morally completely incorrect to have wasted 6 months and say void it. Now, there are going to be some clubs, as we know, who would massively benefit from voiding the football season, as highlighted by one of your chair people at the weekend, Baroness Brady.
But I think she's gotten a lot of stick for it. I think the point she's made is a valid option. You'd rather, what you're saying is you think ethically and morally we have to finish this season.
Yes.
Would you rather finish this season and not have a season next year?
Yes.
See, I'm of the opinion that I would rather void this season but have a full season next year. So in my scenario, you've got 3/4 of this season and a whole season next year. Whereas in your scenario, you get one whole season, but potentially nothing. So in my scenario, you get more football. I suppose both of us want one thing, right? Which is one completed full season. And you're in the situation where you'd rather sacrifice next season to finish this season. And what I'm saying is, depending on time, it might be a case of sacrificing this one to get a full season next year. And I don't know which is the right one. And I suppose timing will tell us. The sooner we restart football, the more likely we are to get both. The longer it goes on, I think you have to void this one and start the next one. If you can start the next one around August, September. If you can't start the next one till November, December, then and obviously this one's not finished at that point, then you may as well go back and finish this season because you're not going to have enough time to finish that. I want one full completed season. And I feel like it's going to come at the cost of this season or next, one or the other. And it's a difficult one.
Isn't it easier to finish 2 months and play 9 months?
But you're left with more dead time then at that point, right? You're left with more dead time.
Yeah,
and
but
you
I
get
just
more
think,
football
like we
starting
said,
the next
we have
season.
to make sacrifices further down the line, be it a domestic cup competition. UEFA have got to bend over in some way here and make sacrifices and for once in their life forget about money and do the right thing for completing football.
Yeah, I mean, governments are going to step in and influence them in certain ways. Like the cancellations and postponements in Italy were much more government-led than FA-led, whereas here we're much more FA-led and Premier League-led than we have been government-led. The government's not turned around and said, don't have any sports. Cheltenham still was cracking on, you know what I mean? So I think the government may have a say in what happens in terms of UEFA can say, yeah, we're going to do this. If the government issue a lockdown, you ain't going to do nothing. Germany's banned all non-essential travel now. Lucky you managed to get your Leipzig game out of the way before.
I'm glad I didn't go. Yeah. Imagine that.
As it stands right now, I think we're not going to have time to finish this season and complete next.
Can I ask then, if you would go down the void route, and it's not just West Ham who have suggested, Tottenham and Arsenal, by the way, will join up here and try and get the season voided.
You'll be back in the Champions League again.
Well, quite possibly, yeah. So that's not right, is it? So what's your resolution? If you void the season and you start next season, what's your solutions?
That's it. Everybody stays in the same league, same everything. Off we go again.
So Spurs would be in the Champions League.
Correct.
Arsenal would be in the Champions League, assuming Man City don't get their ban overturned.
Yeah, whoever was fifth the season before. Was it Gunners?
Yeah.
Yeah, Gunners go in.
Yeah. Wolves and Man United back in Europa League.
Yeah.
Plus whoever finished 8th that season go. I think might have been Everton. Or was it was either Everton or Leicester finished 8th, I think.
We start the next season.
That's how you deal with it.
Exactly the same as we started this season. And it feels so harsh on so many teams that have done amazing things. Sheffield United.
What do you do with things like goals scored? What I mean by that is for individual players. Do they never exist in the record books?
I think they would exist in the record books.
But not if you void everything, they don't, surely. Doesn't count.
The games were played. I think just the results, the victories should count. I just think the league positions and the prizes for finishing wherever you're finished are dead. It's as if you just played however many competitive games, but they didn't count towards a trophy at the end. The games were still competitive games. I think the records still count, but you just draw a line because, there's no fair solution, like you said. It's just the one that's even for everyone.
There is a fair solution.
There is another solution. Yeah, finish this season.
Yeah,
but I don't know if I would rather a full next season than finish this season. If I was given the choice of a full this season and no season next year, or call it as it is, and start again. I'd start again.
From lessons learned, and it must be said, sympathy for everybody because what's happening is so
Hugely.
unprecedented, right? Nobody could have been prepared for this outcome. You don't see it happening. We're talking about something that's not happened to football essentially for 70 odd years, right? So It's unprecedented, and obviously now with television money, sponsorship, it's all completely different. It's new for everybody. My feeling very much strongly is no matter when, we must finish this football season. And if it then means that we have to start the next one, be it either a different calendar. So, for example, like I said, we don't start the next one till January and we run through summer, or we have to start under some sort of different rules. At least everybody will know the rules they're playing to next season.
Well, we thought we knew the rules we were playing to this season.
At 76% done of the season for the majority of football clubs, that's more than 3/4. There should be a resolution from this football season.
I did see on Twitter that if the season was 75% or more completed for all teams, they could call it as is.
There is a rumour of that.
Yeah, but there's the Villa-Sheffield United game that's meaning that not all teams have done 75%.
Correct. There is.
If that one game had been played, they could call it maybe.
There is a solution that suggests that they could then average the points, which would mean that, say, Villa still went down. But then take Bournemouth. Bournemouth would go down at the moment on 1 goal. That's not fair when they don't know that the Liverpool game wasn't their final game. They would have put the goalkeeper up in the box in the last minute and stuff, and they would have done everything to try and score, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
If that was the case for them. You've got teams not finishing at equal times, etc. It's not, you can't relegate Bournemouth on that if that's the way you're going to go. And
that's why avoiding the season doesn't do that. It keeps everybody where they are. Start again. Off you go. Here we go.
The idea of a vote scares me a little bit, and one of the reasons it scares me is if you take the scenario of Bournemouth. This is controversial. To get a lot of things over the line in the Premier League, my understanding of 14 out of 20 clubs have to come to an agreement. Mm-hmm. So I think to get 14 out of 20 clubs to vote for an annulment is unlikely. I think there would be some support from Arsenal, Tottenham. Chelsea would definitely go back in the Champions League. West Ham obviously staying up. Watford, Brighton. Suddenly you do get in a position where...
But are you talking about annulling it or calling it as it is right now?
Void, done, finished. But I think there's a potential then if we get to that point, we go, okay, so what do we do currently? This is a 100-year-old story where Arsenal got voted into the Football League ahead of Tottenham. Controversially, I would say that a lot of Premier League clubs would prefer to have Leeds United in the Premier League than Bournemouth. If it came to some sort of vote, is that something that could even happen here?
You can't have a vote on who gets relegated.
But if 14 or 20 clubs, say they all go into an agreement together and they say, right, look, Bournemouth's gate receipts is they're getting 11,000 capacity. We can get Leeds in, it's 40,000. It's better for the brand, etc. What if 14 of them all agree of it together?
But then they're agreeing to relegate Norwich, Villa, and Bournemouth.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree with it. But I think you either void it and everyone stays where they are, or you finish the season.
But what I'm saying is they might not even relegate Villa because Villa, again, because of the size of the club, is probably better.
They wouldn't be allowed to do that.
Why not? It's happened. It admittedly happened 100 years ago. And it wasn't because of the size of the club. It was because Arsenal had dirty money going around. That's true, by the way.
Allegedly. I don't know the story.
Listen,
back then,
them guys from the 1914s or whatever who want to come and hunt me down and say I've slandered them, come and find me.
I don't know is the honest answer, but it wouldn't happen in today's day and age. No way that would be allowed to happen. There would be outrage.
There's no way they could vote Leeds in over Bournemouth as
way.
a vote for promotion.
No way.
No?
No. The public
I tell you
outcry
what,
would
I
be
bloody hope not.
Yeah.
But football's governed by money and there might be desperation to get some of the losses back.
I think it will make a dent. It won't help solve anything there.
When do you think we'll start football again?
What are we now? March? Probably around June.
I think that's optimistic.
I think June, but I don't know. We'll see.
I think football will restart in August. And possibly later.
Yeah.
I read someone suggesting in an article, it might have been in The Guardian this morning, that it was unlikely to be this year.
Interesting. We'll see. It'd be interesting to know what the sentiment from all of you guys out on Twitter and the YouTube comments and what have you is, and when football will start again. Would you take this season over next, even though we're 75% in? But only time will tell. And right now we just got to sit tight and be patient, really. Having said that, we've got quite a few things to talk about this week in terms of the usual Planet FPL content. Tomorrow, Tottenham, we'll be talking about twiddling our thumbs and what we got up to at the weekend.
It'll be better than that.
Yeah, Sky FF on Wednesday. What we're going to talk about?
I can't tell you yet. We need to discuss it.
Thursday, we've got Clash of the Correspondents. So Bournemouth. Our Bournemouth correspondent Neil Grover. It'll be interesting to get his take on where he feels we should go. Alongside, who's joining Neil?
Bradley
Parker, Wolves correspondent.
And they're obviously fighting for Europe, right?
Yes, correct.
And still in European competition, it's worth saying, with a genuine chance of winning a European trophy.
Indeed. And then on Friday, we have the live stream. James will be jumping on Ask James. So if you're a YouTube watcher, you can jump on that or catch the audio when we publish it afterwards as well.
And by the end of the week, we'll know our schedule going on weekly until football restarts in 2024.
Until they change the schedule. Just keep playing it by ear. But if you have hit the notification bell and subscribed or downloaded the Android or iPhone Planet FPL app, just search Planet FPL and you'll find us. Then you'll get all of the latest content as soon as it comes out. Anything else to add?
Yeah, it'd be nice if everyone stopped fucking buying toilet roll.
Yeah, true. Should we get everyone to vote for us in the FCAs?
Yeah, probably.
Head over to Twitter, find any tweet that James may have that says, I think you have to say, I'm voting for best fantasy football content Planet FPL pod.
There's loads. I'm not giving it the hard sell. I just want to see if everyone can win it for us without doing hard sell.
Best in fantasy football or something, whatever else. You find it on Twitter, FCAs, and vote. You
should vote for us as well because it's probably the next sporting event that'll ever happen in this country and it's being held at White Hart Lane. I need to go, right? I need one free ticket because the tickets are expensive.
Yeah. I think if we get nominated, we get one free, and I'm highly likely to get nominated.
That's bullshit if we don't even get nominated.
And I'm planning on blagging my way in free with a steward's jacket that you have, the Champions League one. So there we go.
Yeah, but that's going to be no use. We ain't in it, mate.
No. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great week. Keep washing your hands. Ciao for now.
Cue music, man, child.
Fantasy Football Show.